a strategy simplified. Grab a pencil and paper and follow along with this case interview session led by Ray Temnewo, a management consultant coach and former McKinsey consultant. The case involves a hotel chain looking to expand into a new market. The question needing to be answered is, should the hotel chain move forward with the expansion project? After listening, if you enjoyed the way Ray led the session, consider working with him one-on-one via case or fit interview prep. Click the link in the show notes to see his calendar and book today. All right, let's get this show on the road.
If you have 2 sheets of paper ready, we'll begin.
Yes, I am.
Your case is called Zenith Hotel. Zenith Hotel is a global hotel chain with 50 hotels in 20 countries. The company is evaluating the construction of a new hotel in the Bahamas. Zenith has come to us asking whether it can and should move forward with the project.
Okay, so just to make sure we are on the same page, the case is about the Zenith Hotel. So Zenith Hotel is our client. They are a global hotel chain with 50 hotels in 20 countries. And they currently have a plan to make a hotel in Bahamas. And they want our suggestion of whether they should build one or not in Bahamas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about the countries they are currently in? Are they already present in Bahamas, or are they just venturing into the market?
No, the launch in the Bahamas would be the first in the Bahamas and also the Caribbean more broadly. Their other 50 hotels are spread out all across the world, developing nations, and even some other island territories.
Okay. And they are planning the expansion just for the revenue increase, or is there any other specific reason that they are doing this?
Just holistically, whether it makes sense, right? There's no specific profitability or ROI goal, but if it's economically attractive and there's no kind of qualitative issues, then we think it can make sense.
Okay, and what kind of hotel chain are they? Are they like a luxury 5-star, or what kind of chain are they?
We don't have too much data on that, but let's assume they're mid to upper end.
Okay, cool. So let's give me some moments to just grab on my thoughts and jot down a framework to get back to you. Thank you so much.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
MBAs, consulting internship interviews, will be here before we know it. If you want to be strategic about the way that you prepare, join Black Belt. Black Belt is the world's only accelerated case and behavioral interview program that's got a proven track record of success. 80% of Black Belts land at least one offer at a firm they're targeting. What does Black Belt give you? It gives you at least 8 hours of one-on-one interview prep with an MBB coach, a live group training taking place on Thursday, December 16th, and access to a best-in-class online curriculum to supplement the live training you're receiving. This curriculum includes drills, practice cases, video walkthroughs, and more to ensure that you're focused on the right things at the right time. If you're ready to work hand in hand with an MBB mentor who will build a personalized prep plan for you, join Black Belt today. You can learn more and sign up through the link in the show notes. And oh yeah, if you're a student at a partner program, you get a discount. Write us for more details and to get the discount today.
So just to see whether the Zenith Hotel chain should move into Bahamas or not, I want to see firstly the market of Bahamas. How many hotels are there already? What is the current share? The market, and what is the growth trend of the market over the past few years, and has the current state of the economy actually affected that or not? Currently, we are heading into recession, and if that has some impact on the hotel industry in Bahamas or not. Secondly, I want to see specifically into the competitors, what kind of share they are holding, how many competitors are there already, what are the special features that they are providing, and what is their price range that they are offering to their customers right now, since Zenith Hotel is a luxury hotel chain or mid to upper level. So I believe what kind of location that they are looking for would be mostly around the beaches or probably in the downtown. So I want to see how many competitors are located around that area. So thirdly, I want to see the customer segment currently for the Zenith Hotel and what kind of customers who generally take a hotel in Bahamas are. I assume this is kind of a honeymoon location, so most of the couples would be renting a place there. So I want to see the segmentation of the customers there, and I want to see which is the most important segment there and what is the growth opportunity in that segment. And also, I want to see what is the share of such hotels in that particular segment of the luxury hotel, the beach around the beach areas or in the downtown, and for the couples specifically who are coming for the honeymoon. Third, I want to see what kind of capabilities currently Zenith Hotel has. I want to see if they have currently, through their balance sheet, whether they have their capacity to invest, and if they have what kind of the fixed cost would be there in the Bahamas, what is the current labor rate there, and what kind of wages are offered there. So just to see overall about the company and how the company capabilities match the Bahamas market. Fourth, I want to see what kind of services the hotel will be offering. Is it just going to be a hotel, or are there going to be extra services like a pool, like some activities, some adventure sports, something around the food, or what kind of restaurants they are planning to offer to the people who are going to stay, and if they have some plans or some things running for the couples already who are going to be coming there, or other kind of customers who are going there for business trips probably.
Awesome. And just to clarify, sorry, were you done?
Yeah, I was going to say that I want to explore currently, firstly, the market of the Bahamas, just to make sure whether this is a good idea or not. But yeah, you can.
No, that makes sense. I just want to clarify something. So the buckets were competitors and customer segment under the market bucket, or were those separate?
So I have 5 buckets at hand. First one is market, second is competitors, third one is customer, fourth one is company, and fourth one is the service that we'll be providing, our client will be providing.
Great. And you wanted to start off with the market. Where would you want to begin?
I want to see what kind of the mid to luxury level market in Bahamas is, what currently are the and also what kind of the customers are renting places in Bahamas. So if you have any data around that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, not too much data there. We know that our target customers tend to be tourists versus like business travelers or anyone else, and they tend to be mid to high end tourists, right? So those with a pretty hefty amount of disposable income as a result of that, but not too much other data there.
Okay. So can we, if we don't have that data currently about what kind of market does it look like, can we just see what kind of customers there are, the segmentation currently, if you have any data to support what percentage of customers come from, like how many are the couples, how many are the business trips, people coming for business and all?
Not too much of a divide there, yeah.
Okay. Then I would like to see if we have any data about the current competitors of Zenith and Zenith Hotel, and if there are any competitors currently in Bahamas, like if there is major competitor of Zenith and they are currently located in Bahamas, what is their day-to-day earnings and what is their revenue over the year and profitability. I want to look into that if you have that picture.
The competitive landscape, yeah. What do you think would be the class of competitors in a major tourist region like this?
I think it will be most major luxury chains like Marriott, Taj, and Hyatt. And I want to see what the current market share is of these hotels, if you have any data around that, and see what kind of revenues that they are earning. And also I want to see the current, just to make sure how much investments they are going to put in, the fixed costs and the investment costs. I want to see what is the reality, like the real estate rates going on right now in that area?
Yeah. So let's have, how about, it sounds like you touched on two things there. Let's focus on the second one then. The idea of the rates, how much we'll have to put in and the rates we'll get out of it. So I'd love your help with that. The question I have for you is, how much would Zenith Hotel need to charge on average per room per night to break even? And I have some data to help you out with that. The hotel currently has 400 rooms. The one-time startup costs are $500 million.
500 million.
The hotel would cost $20 million a year to operate. And I want you to assume that we're evaluating this over a 10-year horizon. With that information, could you let me know how much Zenith would need to charge on average per room per night to break even?
Okay. So they have 500 millions of fixed cost, and over the 10 years, they are going to have $20 million per year. So that's going to make it 200 million if we do not consider that they are the present value of it. I'm just trying to calculate the break-even value. So 200 millions and 500 million, that would be 700 million total. And they have to break even over 400. Let's assume that the hotel will be open 24/7. Can we assume that? Okay. So that makes it 360.
If you're referring to 24/7 in terms of days of the year, let's just use the assumption 350 days per year.
350? Okay. So let's say it's open 350 days a year, and 400 per night. 400 hotels, and I want to calculate what should they charge. So 400 into 350 into the price should be equal to the break-even cost. 700. That leaves me with 20,000. 20,000. So 700 million. I want to walk you through my calculation. 700 million for 400 rooms, 350 days a year into 10 years. That will be 350. That will be 2 million over 2 million. 20,000 by 10 by 4. $500.
$500 per night. Yep.
Per night, yeah.
What do you think about that?
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
If it's a luxury hotel, I think that's a fair enough price for the US market. And considering a lot of customers are Americans that fly there for business trips, or if there are people living there, I assume Bahamas is a rich country, so 500 is a fair price to charge.
Yeah. When you think about that break-even price, what are the things you would do to potentially lower that amount?
Like we are assuming in this case that that the hotel will be open 350 days a year all the time, and it will be on the max capacity all the time, but that's not the case in most of the time. So I like this 500 is the best case scenario, but I assume that if it is not going to be operated on full capacity year round, then they should charge more than that.
Yeah. So that would be a great call out in terms of maybe an assumption we made that might be too generous. And that would actually cause us, to your point, to increase the number. What about things we could do to lower the number? Let's say our occupancy assumptions for this case are accurate. What are things we could do to lower that $500 per night?
Okay, so in this case, we are investing $500 million and $20 million per year. I am assuming that includes all the costs that we'll be catering to. So that means there are other services that we can provide. Instead of charging upfront $500, if we can charge customers a little less for the hotel and then make the services higher as and when they take it, and for the services we charge separately, we can increase our revenue and decrease the one-time cost that the customer has to pay.
On the service, what are some of the services you're referring to?
The services like if it's for the couples, special rooms for them, special services like providing them with adventure sports, providing them with spa, providing them with luxury restaurants, something in the food area, like whichever they prefer.
Yeah, so all these ancillary revenue sources. Yep, that makes sense to me. Awesome. Where do you want to go next?
Okay, so before we can give Zenith Hotel any suggestion on whether they should move into this or not, I would really want to see what are the current services that they're offering. Would they have all of these available to them? Because right now we are saying that they are going to charge $500 upfront. If we say you reduce that from 500 to 400 and give them additional service, do they have such resources? Do they have that much manpower? Can they manage that much labor? Is there labor available in the Bahamas market? I want to see whether all those services can be provided or not, and how the competitors are doing in the special services that they provide to the customers.
Yeah. So what's the specific question?
So specific question is about, do we have the labor capacity in Bahamas to cater to those services? And what are the services that they are currently providing in other hotels that they are running, which we can provide in Bahamas? Because if they have that capability, we can just copy that in Bahamas.
Awesome. So to the first part, yes, we do have the labor if required to kind of expand on those capabilities. And to the second part, we do offer some of the services that you've mentioned already, those ancillary revenue sources in our other markets. We just, for the sake of this calculation, I guess, focus on the room rate revenue as the sole focus. But to your point, you had some good ideas. Those are things that we can implement and we probably can explore further if we decide to go down that route.
Okay. So we just don't want to get into how much services we can provide right away. This is the primary income is going to be the $500 that the customer will be providing. So in that case, in that case, 10 years for a hotel to be completely profitable is a really good tenure, I think. Like 10 years of break even is a really good for the hotel industry, especially to take out all the investments that they have made, which is the major investment of $500 million. So I think going by all the figures that we have from now, I think it is a good idea for Zenith Hotel to move into Bahamas and explore a hotel.
Is there anything else you'd like to explore?
Yes, I would really want to know more about the services and see if we can generate more additional revenue for Zenith Hotel through the additional services that we can provide. And I would also like to see what is the competitive market right now, to see whether the competitors are currently profitable or not. Have they already achieved their break-even targets that they had made previously? What investments did they make? Is the 10-year mark that we are currently targeting, is it realistic or not? Have the competitors already made that? So I will want to explore that.
So there are already some existing incumbent players who probably have broken, past their break-even point because they've been around and they're currently still active. But I do have a question for you in regards to the market. While we don't have too much data on our specific competitor offerings, what we can try to figure out is what our implied market share would be. Implied market share just, again, means what our estimated part of the pie would be if we were to enter. And so I have some more data for you if you can help me out with it.
Okay.
There are 400 hotels in the room, which we mentioned earlier. You brought up a great point about our occupancy because the hotel's not full all the time, right? So our occupancy rate is 75% at any given time.
Okay.
Average occupancy. And the Bahamas also receives 50,000 visitors per month.
50,000.
50,000 visitors per month. With that information, can you help me figure out what Zenith Hotel's implied market share would be in their first year if they were to enter?
Okay. %75% average occupancy of the 400 hotels would be 300 of the 400 rooms would be 300 rooms filled at all times. And we have 300 rooms and there are 50,000 visitors coming every month. Let's assume 3. Like that means around 1,300 something rooms. 50,000. 1,300 rooms would be needed per day. If I say if these visitors are evenly spread across the month, I would say around 1,333 rooms would be needed per day in the Bahamas. Sorry, I made the assumptions that all the visitors would be needing a single room, but considering that Bahamas is a honeymoon location, I can say that not all the people will be living in a single occupancy room. So in that case, 50,000.
Let's assume that there are an average of 3 people per room.
Okay, thank you. That number would be helpful. So if there are 50,000 visitors per month and 3 persons per room, that makes it around 13,300 rooms needed per month, and on a day we would be needing around 1,000 rooms, and they have 400, out of which 75% will be available. That means 300 rooms. 300 rooms out of 1,000 rooms. Like, if we think that 75%, if we believe that 75% we can directly achieve a great market in Bahamas, which not ideally is the case. They have to capture the market over a period of time. I don't believe that they're going to capture the market right away as soon as they enter. So I can fairly assume that they can capture maximum of 33% of the entire market. But over some time that they make some huge investments in marketing, and then they maintain a good rating of the hotel.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. Can you walk me through the top of your calculation, just conceptually? How are you thinking about it?
Okay, sure. So if there are 50,000 visitors per month, that means, and 3 visitors, 3 persons stay in a room. So that makes it 50,000 divided by 3. That makes it around 13,300. 300 rooms per month.
And then why are we thinking about it in terms of rooms versus people? Like the 50,000 Bahama visitors is the total denominator, right? That's like the total pie that's available to us. So maybe we should think about it in terms of people, and let's try to get the people as a numerator, and then we can see if we can get the market share. I think we try to think about it in terms of rooms, and we could try to think about it in terms of people.
Okay, so there are 50,000 people who are visiting Bahamas every month. And out of those 50,000, I was assuming that all of them are going to stay in hotels because they are visitors. So
I think yeah. So one thing to call out, I think we're still touching the 50,000. I think doesn't change. We should probably not think about that number. That's just the total pie. It's a final size. So just think about it from the beginning in terms of our hotel and what we can potentially hold as capacity.
Okay. Like we have 400 rooms. 75% of them remains occupied. That means 300 rooms which will be occupied. And out of those 300, we can host 3 people per room. That means 900 people we can accommodate in our hotel at any given time on average. 900 people hosting. And what is the market share? 900 out of 50,000?
Well, do we only have 900 in a month?
900 into 30, that will be the total.
Well, do we have a new 900 every day? If it's a hotel, do people like come and
stay
go?
for, yeah. What is the average time that they are staying there? Yeah. Do you have a figure for that?
I do.
Sure.
It's 1 week. You can assume that people stay for 1 week, and there's 4 weeks in a month.
Okay. So people stay for 1 week. So 900 people per week. And 4 into 4, that means 3,600 people we can host in a month. And then there are 50,000 visitors, 3,600 of which we can host. That gives us about 146, 140, around 14% of the market share. 14% of the market share, like that's the cap that we can reach.
Can you take one more look at that number? You have 3,600 over 50,000, right?
Yeah, I had 3,600. Oh, sorry. I did. Really sorry about that. That's 250. 9 over 125. 9 125 into 4 by 4. That will be 36 over 1,000. 200. That will make it 3.6. I'm sorry.
So what's the final percentage?
3.6.
Let's take one more look at it.
3,600 over 50,000. I multiplied that numerator and denominator by 2. That makes it 7,200 over 100,000. Yeah, so I think 1,000, that is 0.072. Sorry. That is 7.2%.
Yep, 7.2%. What are your thoughts on that market share for the first year?
7.2% capturing within one. This I think this is going to be the maximum market share, not the first year market share, and I don't think that's 7.2% they can achieve right after opening. So I think if they want to gain more market share, there is capacity to even increase. 7.2% is not a very good market share for the hotel industry overall, especially some of the chains. In the luxury segment, they cater to more than around 20% of the market. So I think
What was the reason you said it was maximum versus?
This is the maximum because they are saying that they have 400 rooms and only 75% of them will be. So I think this is going to be the maximum that they can achieve.
Because you believe occupancy realistically will be a lot lower.
Yeah. In the beginning, at least. Because they don't have a good rating in that area, and then they haven't done much marketing right after opening. Even if they have done, people would not start flooding in right away. They would be needing some fast ratings, good ratings, and good services, for sure.
I know we're getting close to time, so is there anything else you'd like to explore?
Yeah, I wanted to explore the competitors, but probably we don't have much data about it. So, okay. And the services also, we don't have much data.
Nope, not much outside of what we discussed already.
Okay, and what is the major services that the customers generally take in Bahamas? Is it the spa, I'm assuming, or the adventure? So
we assume that they go to hotels, obviously, for the classic rooms and just a place to have a roof over their head, but they probably do use some ancillary services, the spa, the fitness centers, the dining centers as well. I guess one of my last questions would be: Are there any broader risks that you could potentially consider when you think about launching into a region like this for the first time?
Yes, the first and major risk that comes to my mind is probably the labor market. Do they really have that much potential to get that much manpower in the first year or in the coming years? The second thing I like, especially for the hotel industry, the major risk is terrorism. If they have to increase the security of their hotel and they have to see how they are going to invest in the security of their of all their visitors. So I think these are the two major risks that Zenith Hotel has to be mindful of. And considering they are a global chain that already has 50 hotels under their belt and they are globally located. So I think they have good services and all these risks has been already taken care of. But the labor market could be a potential risk for them if they cannot find that much people to help them.
Yep. So the CEOs come in and ask, what should we do?
We'll be right back after this quick message.
Join Strategy Sprint. It's an MBB project experience condensed into a 1-week time frame. Each day, you meet one-on-one with your project leader to get mentorship and help on your work stream, as well as meeting daily with your team to ensure that you're developing a final deliverable that's going to be meaningful for the client. Prior to Project Week, you go through our online best-in-class skills training program that culminates in a virtual case competition. You can learn more or apply through the link in the show notes. There are only a few spots left.
So my suggestion to the CEO is they can capture 7.2% of the market, going by the numbers that we have. And I think they can break even in 10 years, but 7.2% doesn't seem to be a good number. If they can increase the number of rooms, or if they can increase the occupancy by making more marketing campaigns, or if they can make a bigger hotel that provide better services, it will be more profitable for them to enter. So yeah, my final suggestion is increasing the market share if they can by putting in more rooms. So for that, I need to see what we need to see the competitors and the services that they can offer. So my final suggestion is they should not launch for the 7.2% of market share. And I want to further explore, when given a chance, to see the current industry in Bahamas and what is the competitive share. And yeah.
Awesome. We're done. Take a deep breath. Let it.
I'm sorry.
Let it all go. That was a lot. Yeah. How did you feel about how you did? We have roughly 8 minutes for feedback. So you start me off. How do you feel about you did? How do you feel about your strengths? What areas do you think you could have worked on? What was your take on the case?
I think I started off really good. Especially I had all the my framework part was good, and also I did the initial calculation, break even, everything right. But I think as I progressed into the case, I got pretty much like messed up with my calculations. I didn't make up enough space in my sheet to write everything down very clearly. That's why my calculations were getting messed up again and again. If you want to see my sheets, it's totally I just made everything on one. So
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a first rule is always have two sheets of paper, just because that can happen, or someone who's a good math student like yourself can also still make an error just because of lack of space. What else? What else in the case went well? Did you think you could have improved on?
I think I could have improved on that area when I directly started dividing 50,000, which was the total number of visitors that are coming, and just assume that these are the number of people we can host directly. So I should have gone through the route of seeing how many hotels Zenith Hotel has, and how many rooms Zenith Hotel has, and how they can accommodate everyone. And also about the market share, I think it would be really helpful to see what kind of market share generally hotels have. Like this kind of data would be really handy to have.
It's pretty hard to know off the top of your head. Yeah. But I think it's always good to have a reference point.
Yes.
I'll go ahead and walk through some feedback. Overall, I thought you did pretty good. I think this case is interesting. I've given this case out like 80 times now, and so think like there's a certain bucket of themes I kind of come across. I thought I loved your beginning. Took your 2 minutes, which is great. I know it can feel like a long time, but enjoy that, especially if the case is as open-ended as this one, which is like, should we launch or not? And I think that really worked well for you. I think your clarifying questions were great as well. Is there a specific target goal, right? Like, and then also getting extra clarification about our external portfolio presence. Do we have where else are our hotels? Are they in other island regions? Are they in developing countries? Like, that's good information to have as context. Your framework, I thought, covered a good amount. I will say I was a bit worried that it might be a bit too cookie cutter when you came in with the classic market, competitors, customer segment, which is fine. Again, it's okay. The highlights of the framework to me specifically were when you included things that really contextualize the case. When you mentioned the recession and how that could actually impact travel, that let me know for a moment that she didn't take some Victor Chain case in point case. She came in and for a moment she started applying this case specifically to this framework. People do that, and they often mention things like the COVID, obviously, pandemic and how that impacted travel, right? Like you can think about very current day modern news, and then also more broadly, just things that are very specific to hotels. Has tourist foot traffic slowed down? Is Bahamas still an interesting place where people moved on to Turks and Caicos and other areas in Thailand, right? Like, is it still even relevant? That's when you really know you're in the middle of the case. So I enjoyed that part of it. Things I would have tweaked would have been probably limiting the number of buckets you've had to probably 3, maybe 4. The idea here is just market. The idea of a market is, what is a market? A market essentially includes everything in the environment that a company operates in, including the customers, including the competitors, and including the general growth trends. So you could probably bucket a lot of that under market specifically instead of keeping it separate. I like the idea of some internal or company bucket to understand what we do as a company, what our best practices are. I love you talked about the balance sheet and whether we can even afford this, right? What services we provide. That makes sense. The one bucket I would have called out and probably made very specific, although this information was there for you, just sprinkled throughout, is whenever you're thinking about a new market launch or even buying it's a piece of technology, you want to have like an economics of the investment bucket or just the investment bucket. And the idea there is in that one bucket, you capture everything that's specific to this investment, the upfront one-time cost, any transaction fees, any operating costs, and then any recurring or one-time revenues we get from that. That is where you, in almost every case like this, will have to do some kind of calculation to understand whether this is worth it. And so if you made that quite clear, which is what I wanted to do when I asked kind of where your buckets exactly lie, because I think you did capture a lot, but you also spread it out over a lot, it would have been easier for me to follow and then kind of look for that golden nugget, which would have probably segued us into the break even. The second thing I call out with the framework, and we're spending time on the framework here because the framework is by far the most important part of the case. I think 80% of the value is right there, and you did a really good job, but these are just, again, tweaks we can have. You want to have a feasibility or risks bucket when it comes to launching something new or going into a new market. The reason is because there's so many external factors that are outside of company or the transaction that can affect the value. What's an example? If you're going into a new market, there could be regulatory concerns. There could be cultural backlash, right? Like think about Hawaii right now. People don't want to travel to Hawaii because the natives don't want us there, right? It's one example. In the Bahamas, there could be a similar idea. Who knows? There could be governments taxing, those who have external influence. And then the same thing with technology. An external feasibility piece would be patents, right? For example, like how proprietary is technology. So those two buckets are critical. And I think you could have combined a lot of what you had elsewhere into smaller buckets to therefore make room for those two. But I think that was good. The last piece I'll say on frameworks before we get elsewhere is that when it comes to a case like this, where you're launching a hotel in the Bahamas, it's okay to have a hypothesis. Like upfront, it's okay to say, Bahamas is an amazing vacation destination. I haven't been, but I think it makes sense to try to get there if we can. But first, I want to explore these areas. It lets me know that you have an opinion, kind of the classic consulting day one answer, and then we'll go accordingly. I also know we're going a little bit over if that's okay with you in terms of the feedback. So we can take a couple more minutes. So that's the biggest thing with a framework to me. And that's where I'd say, like, you did a great job. That to me, though, takes it from a good to a great framework. We then had the first math problem, which I thought you did well. No issues. You kind of blew through that pretty easily. You also were really good about contextualizing whether that $500 was good or bad. I like how you spoke about how it actually was, you benchmark it to American hotels because that tends to be the bulk of the travelers. So that's kind of their willingness to pay, which I thought was a great idea. And then you talked about how we could lower it or increase it, both lowering it and also how increasing it because occupancy was likely a generous assumption. So that was a great first math problem. There's one thing I'd call out though, which led into the second math problem. This idea of conceptually walking through what you're going to do, right? So every math problem, even for the GMAT, I'm sure you remember this, is just like, what are the 3 steps? It's understand what's being asked, conceptually walk through what you're going to do, and then just do it. Like the algebra, the 7 times 7, the 4 times 8, right? Understanding what's being asked was no issue for you. Conceptually, in this first math problem, it really wasn't an issue as well. But I think you kind of skipped step 2 and you jumped straight into, I know what to do, I'm going to go do it now. And that is doable in a math problem like this because there aren't too many variables, right? It was pretty easy to do the total cost, the number of room nights per 10 years, and you're kind of down to the division. But the second math problem is where it gets a bit trickier because there are so many different components. Occupancy is a percentage. Bahamas visitors per month is an absolute number. And then you have length of stay, which is 1 week. All these different variables come into play, and it can be a bit troublesome if you don't take the time to really think about it. I'll do you a favor by letting you know that I don't think one person has ever gotten this right perfectly the first time, that the second math problem. So you should know, like, it should feel a little bit tough. It should feel that quantitative difficulty is probably pretty high. But the reason is not so that you can, like, watch people get it wrong, but so you can train that muscle of conceptually walking through. That's the most important thing. Take the time, take 1 minute, and even if you need to, write down in words, break even, right? It's like, or implied market share, like same numerator, same denominator in terms of the measure. And how do I get people to match people on the bottom? And that's what you do to walk through. And then you don't lose sight of the fact that it's a hotel and people stay for a certain amount of time, right? Like all those things can get lost if you jump right into the math, which I think is what happened because you're so confident from the first math, right? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. The last thing I'll add, because I know we're a little bit over, is the conclusion. I think as part of maybe the frustration maybe you felt from some of the second math, you kind of jumped right into the conclusion. I encourage you again to take an extra 10, 20 seconds. No one will ever penalize you for that. I really don't think any firm ever will. They want people to, again, have answers that are quick, but at the same time, have them informed. So if you take the time and then you start off in the same kind of structure with conclusions, you don't want to memorize frameworks too generally, but in this case, it's always good to know the conclusion always starts with the action-oriented go, no go, launch, don't launch. That's the first thing someone needs to hear. And then your rationale, usually 2 or 3 bullets under that. That usually it almost always actually ties to analyses you've done earlier. So you mentioned the 7.2%, you mentioned the $500, right? You talk about the context that you mentioned, and then any risks and next steps, which you also talked about. The next steps for you, you're really big on competitors. You kept on wanting to know more about what else was happening, and I wouldn't give you any. But the point there is take the time because I thought you could have had a more thoughtful conclusion in that sense. Overall, though, I thought you were pretty good. I think that is very competitive for a first round. Second round, we never know, right? This is a first round case, but I think there's a lot to learn there, especially around just conceptually taking a moment. But you're in a really good place, especially before interviews, a month away.
Thank you, Zay. I really needed that motivation right now.
No worries.
As always, thanks for listening to the podcast. We'd appreciate your feedback to help make it better. You can do that in one of two ways. The first is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The second is simply to email us. You can shoot us an email at podcast@managementconsultant.com. Let us know what you think and if you have ideas to make the podcast better. Thanks in advance.